Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncomplicating Business. Today, we are doing something a little out of our norm because you know that we don't have very many guests here because I'm very, very picky. But today, I have a fan favorite. I'm very excited. Well, I'm a fan, and then you're going to get to be a fan. So that's going to be how it works. I have the most wonderful Tami Hackbarth here. Tami does all sorts of things, and you should now just very gently and kindly stalk her. But what she is really about is helping women get time and energy back so that they can actually live a life they like. And her brand is all about 100% guilt-free self-care, rebalancing domestic labor at home. She does coaching and writing and speaking and podcasting and all the things. She's like on all the ways. And I can't wait. This is so fun. Plus, she was a teacher, which makes her just about perfect in everybody's book here. Tami, I'm so happy you're here.
I am thrilled to be here. I love seeing your green wall, Sarah. And uh, teachers are my favorite people. Helpers are my favorite people. Yeah, they're who I hang out with. They're who I work with. So I'm super glad to be here with you so we can talk about business stuff for people who want to monetize their expertise.
Heck yes. That's okay. So we're gonna just like jump. We're gonna not be crazy about it. Can you start by telling them and telling everybody a little about, because I know some, but we can't keep it secrets, about how you went from classroom to business. Like, did you just decide on a Tuesday? You're like, nope, screw this, I'm in business now. Or it's not that. So tell us the story.
Okay, I love this. Picture this. I walk into my principal's office. I taught third grade at this point. I had 20 coworkers, probably 19 of which were just pissing me off because they are nine and it wasn't working, guys. We were having a moment. So I went into my principal's office to complain. He came across the desk, he had closed the door, and he asked me if I was happy as being a teacher. Cue ugly tears, where I was like, what I said was, what the F does that have to do with being a teacher? Meaning, I don't know any happy teachers. And I certainly wasn't. And he said, you're really great at this job. You're a natural. You're fantastic. And you're sucking the joy out of the room. And I thought, wow, people need to stop being so direct. So continue the ugly cry. He goes to my class. He takes over. He does a little math instruction while I try to get it back together. And it was from that moment on that I was like, you know what? I'm not going to give my all to a profession that does not appreciate my all. I was super immature about it. My feelings were hurt. I was humiliated. I was having health issues. So, cue number two, very clear, very direct, I would say, dare I say, very offensive man, go to a chiropractor, no, an acupuncturist, who also happens to be a Western MD. So he's like double certified. He's like the real deal. Takes one look at me and looks me dead in my eyes and says, you're going to drop dead in your classroom
Oof.
if you don't deal with your stress. I was like, I did not come here for that recommendation. Can you help me clear my skin and perhaps feel better? The answer was, girl, it's like you have issues.
Mm.
I don't know what those are, but you need to figure it out. You need to reduce your stress. So, in my perfect type A brain, reduce stress equals become a yoga teacher. What? I know, not go to yoga class, but actually study to be a yoga teacher. And while in my yoga teacher training, my one of my besties, Michelle Marlihan at It's All Yoga, said, we're all going to start blogs so that we can publicly share what we're doing, what our thoughts are, how we're growing through this experience. And I thought, I don't know what a blog is, but I will find out tonight and I will start tomorrow. That
Oh,
was
that's
August
the
1st,
teacher learner, right? The teacher
right?
is like, I'm gonna figure this out, right? Hold
Yeah,
on, give me one
yeah, that
sec.
was July 31st, 2009. And on August 1st, 2009, I published my very first blog post. And that was really early in blogging, right? And so I fell down the rabbit hole of, oh, wait, we can just talk to each other on the internet, like in long form. We can do our own professional development by reaching out to people who live across the country. We can use social media to connect with other educators who are like us. We can trade best practices. And I was like, oh, I know what will do. Instead of working all of those hours, I will go down this rabbit hole. And at the time, the ethos on the internet was very, no one should have a civilian job. Everyone should quit their job, bring their laptop, and fly around the world and be location independent. And I was like, well, I'm all in for that. I hadn't yet become a parent. So I was toying with it. But the other thing I was doing was I was really learning a new way to be in the world as a yoga teacher. So again, if you're going to reduce your stress and your answer is become a yoga teacher, when you become a yoga teacher, you become the least popular kind of yoga teacher. So I became a restorative yoga teacher, which is asking very stressed out people to come into the studio, to lay down, use all the props, relax for a long time. Because what do we need as really stressed out people? We do need quiet. We do need to slow down. But I hate to tell you, Sarah, people who are like me that are made of fire and their answer to when times get tough is to work more, it is a hard sell.
Oh, girl, I can't even go to that yoga class. I have tried. I get 20 minutes in. I'm like, I have to leave because this is killing me. I'm so
I still lock
bored.
the door. I locked the door. I was like,
Because I cannot. I have had to really like work at. I was like, yeah, I like the power class, but the restorative one is really hard. And my friends are like, there's something wrong with you. I'm like, no, it's just it's too much space for my brain to go. Yep.
exactly. But what I learned was I can sit in the discomfort of
Mm.
my feelings and not die. I can sit in the discomfort of not knowing and not die. I can sit in the discomfort of doing something that is so completely countercultural because we live in a culture that says the more you work, the better you are as a human.
Mm-hmm.
Get it, grind it, hustle it, all that. And you know what, Sarah? That doesn't work. That just burns people out.
Truth.
It turns out the thing that we've all been prescribed, which is do more, actually does more harm. So it was a long way to get here. I ugly cried in front of my principal. I acted like a brat saying, fine, I will take my toys and go somewhere else and use all my extra time to do something else. And then a physician said, you're going to croak in your classroom. And I was like, I don't want to actually die in room 12. This carpet hasn't been cleaned in years. Ew.
Well, and it's minorly traumatizing for children. Like that's a problem.
Totally. Exactly. And by the way, I was 37.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want people to be talking about my imminent death before I even turn 40 for something that's preventable. So during all of this time, I was like, wait, there is another way to be in this world. And now I'm going to take on this as a personal experiment. Gretchen Rubin's The Happiness Project had just come out, and that book really changed my thinking because I loved Eat, Pray, Love. I know lots of haters, but I love me some escape.
Love her.
Right? I'm like, hey, Liz Gilbert, I also would like to quit my whole life and travel around the world. See, this is a theme. But I do have a job where they want me to be there to open the door for the children. So like Gretchen, I was like, how can I be happier where I am?
Yep.
Right? So I set off on a quest. And if I'm not working all these hours, what will I be doing instead? I decided to do, by the way, I didn't tell this to anyone. I just did it. And that was, I asked myself, what in my life would be different if I did all the health recommendations that every healthcare provider provides you? Exercise 150 minutes a week, sleep 8 hours a day, drink the water, get the steps, eat the produce, meditate. I will just let you know, I was very disappointed to find out that works. It works.
Damn it.
It sucks, right? I'm like,
Right?
oh, so it's not an information problem.
Never is though, right? It's a people
No,
problem.
nope. It's Yeah, it was eye-opening. It
Mm,
was absolutely eye-opening because at the end, so the big brouhaha with my principal happened in November. And I came back after Thanksgiving break and I was like, you know what? I'm going to work to rule, which means I'm going to
yep.
come in at the start time, leave at the end time. And I was like, well, I got a lot of work to do or a lot of time. And I started my experiment straight away. But by the end of that school year, these are the things that happened. My students' behavior improved so remarkably. I was like, oh my God, I think this whole thing was me this
Yep.
whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Hate that realization. Uh, their their like high stakes state testing off the charts,
Mm.
improved. And I was like, well, that was a fluke. So I tried it again the next year. Damn it if it didn't work again. And I thought, God, when I'm happier, these little children do so much better.
Well, it's
Everything is better.
I always say to people, one of the things I've had to learn in business is how to be nice to myself because everything works better when I'm nice to myself. And people are like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, no, no. Like I make more money because I'm nice to myself. Like quite literally, that's how it works. I had a one-on-one with somebody today where like she's new to me and that's what we were talking about. And she was like, I'd want to like argue it, but also somewhere in my body, I know that's true. And I was like, yep, yep, you do. That's the
It's
truth.
the Jedi mind trick. But again, it's countercultural because
Hmm.
what do we learn? We learn competition, we learn cutthroat, we learn no pain, no gain. That's all lies.
Mm,
Every single bit of it is lies.
yep,
What can you do to make it easier for you and your clients?
everything, right? Like, how
Yeah.
can it be simpler? How can you be kinder? How can there be more grace?
Yeah. None of us are having a business emergency.
No. Well, and it's like, what do I lose in pursuit of being kinder?
A
Nothing.
lot of people would say your edge.
Well, but if that's right, then, but like that's, and as I talk to people all the time, if that's what I'm going to lose, that wasn't the business I wanted to start. So many
Oh,
of the
yeah.
teacher people are, that was the whole problem. That's why they feel like they don't belong because that's not the edge they ever had. The edge they had is like filled with candy and snacks and water bottles and handed out to the every stranger that looks hungry, right? Like it's a very different edge.
And I will also say, as somebody who is extremely fluent in sarcasm, wit, all of that, you know what? I haven't lost my edge.
Right.
I'm going to make you laugh by saying something irreverent, but ultimately we're going to be kind to each other.
Yes.
Like, it's not this like soft heart, boring person.
Correct.
It's soft heart. Let's gather around the campfire and still hug and hold hands, but laugh our butts off.
Yes. Well, but
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody the other day about how in business, the way I think about that, and this particular client does it really well, is she's serious about her work, but not herself.
Nice.
Right. And that's what draws people to her. She takes the work seriously, but never herself so seriously that she can't like goof around with you. You're gonna get the stuff done. And it's such a lovely way to be in the world and work. And people are like, oh, that looks like so much more fun than that lady who's going to be mad at me the whole time. Like, what a lovely way to be, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so tell us what it is now. How did it end up?
Oh, okay. So I studied to be a yoga teacher, restorative yoga teacher, and I tried to go back to work. But in that time, I actually became a mom
Mm,
via international adoption. So it's like the world's longest pregnancy, 3 years. So I leave school for a little bit. I'm planning to go back part time. My district has a long held policy of job sharing one position, and they dissolved that policy while I was on parental leave. What? So I went and lobbied. I talked to every principal in the district. I talked to every level of superintendent in the district. They all said the same thing. I was mad. But again, I thought, you know what? I can get a job anywhere as a teacher because I have skills. I do have hustle, but I also have a kid that has at home that needs her mama right this second.
Mm-hmm.
But from the moment I became a yoga teacher, I knew that I was always going to have a side hustle, right? So I taught weekly classes, I held retreats, I was a private yoga teacher. And what one thing that came out of every single interaction I had with clients was, this is great while I'm doing it. How do I make this happen all day? How do I wake up feeling good? How do I feel good after lunch? How do I feel good enough at the end of my workday so that I can deeply enjoy my life? And I was like, yes, I love those questions. Let's dig in.
Mm.
And during that entire time I was a yoga teacher, not one time did anyone ask me, where do I put my foot on the mat? Not one time. They wanted to know, because, yoga is the thing. When we say yoga, everyone thinks, oh, I'm on the mat. That is literally 1/7 of what yoga is. And so what people were asking is like, how do I incorporate the other 7 limbs of yoga into my life? And I was like, let us explore.
Mm.
Let us find out. Let us do some experiments. These are the things that I have done. And I'm a voracious reader. If there's a self-help book, I'm going to read it. I'm going to distill it. I'm going to take out the exercises that are like, that was life-changing. I'm going to leave the rest.
Mm.
And so it evolved from yoga teacher. And then in 2015, one of my longtime yoga clients was like, hey, so I think you should just be a coach, and I'm going to volunteer to be your first coaching client.
I'm your client now. Thank
I'm
you.
your client now. And I was like,
Shoot, Emma, are you? What just happened here?
my mom just died. I don't think I can do this. And she's like, I actually believe in you.
Mm.
Because the year before, me and another former teacher had started a program called the Healthy, Happy, Sane Teacher, where it was all about how we can have sustainable self-care so that we can thrive throughout the entire year, so that we're not constantly like promising ourselves things are going to be different next year, even though nothing has changed. How we're going to, really take the summer by storm. Just kidding. Going to
Oh
watch reality
God, that's the
TV and
worst. No.
eat terrible food because I'm so tired and burnt out from the year. So my yoga clients were looking at like, well, why are you doing that with teachers? Why won't you do that with us? And I was like,
Oh,
because I'm pretending. I am pretending. That is what I'm doing. I'm working with somebody else and I'm figuring it out. And they're like, no, 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 no. Because when it comes down to it, we watch what you're doing in your actual life. And the difference that we've seen in the last few years from where you were a person that the doctors, you're going to drop down your classroom and your principal's like, hey, can you suck the joy out of a room full of 9-year-olds? 9-year-olds,
I'm
you're
right.
sucking the joy, right? They're like, that girl, funny, so funny. This girl, funny and healthy. How do you do
Yes.
that?
Yep.
And I was like, oh, I think we're onto something. In 2016, I interviewed 100 women
Mm.
to ask them. I was like, I need to know, is self-care a thing? Is it a thing that I can hang my professional hat on? Because I was like, it is for me. Apparently, I have a deep need to take care of myself so that I can be a human that other people would like to be around.
Yes.
Okay, duly noted. But I needed to know if other people experience life in the same way.
Yes.
And when you interview 100 potential future clients, you get really clear on what's important to people and what they think. And then I got my coaching certification through UC Davis, and I have been coaching since 2016 with a certificate.
It's it's kind of magic. What's interesting in the whole story is sort of the role of truth tellers and outside people saying you can do different, right? I think we all have those people, but we don't always hear them. And you really listen, right? We have the people, I have had them where they're like, no, 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 no. This is why are you not doing it like that? Or, and sometimes those people are crazy. That's fine. Sometimes you're like, no, 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 I don't want to do that. That don't, no, thank you. And, but if, the ones that love you, the ones that know you, sometimes every now and then somebody drops in and is like, no, why not that? Why not you? And they believe in you, or they sort of push the box a little bit. And that makes a huge difference, right?
Okay, do you want to know what the real difference is?
Mm,
When somebody says, I want you to do this, here's some money. And I'm
yep.
like, well, I guess I'm doing it now.
Yeah, you're
Because
paying me.
it went from an idea to now I have clients.
Yep.
Once I got clients, I was like, woo, I better level up my skills. The people are watching and they're paying me.
Yep.
Right? Because lots of people have lots of ideas about what you're good at, what you should do. But here's the thing, Sarah, before I was a teacher, I had a whole other career. I worked in politics. Was I good at it? Sure. I was good enough. I was good as the next person. I had a tummy ache for a decade.
Yes.
Just because you're good at stuff or fine at stuff doesn't mean you should keep doing it.
Well, and from a business perspective, what's interesting is people will say, well, but I'm starting and nobody's paying me yet. But I think the difference between what they're doing and what you did, which I think is very telling, is the talking about it. Because what happens, the reason people started to hire you, part of it is because they knew what you were thinking about and what you were working on and how you were
You
changing.
mean like I was talking about it with my blog?
Right.
I was
You were,
inviting people to my classes. I
yes,
was,
you were doing it out loud in view, right? The changes, the things. And so people could say, "Oh, I see you. I need that." Versus doing it in secret and hoping they'd find you.
okay. Well, when we created the Healthy, Happy, Sane Teacher, I we did kind of create it like in our little laboratory, and then we rolled it out. And a handful of people with their US dollars bought it and went through us.
Yeah.
But you know what's crazy? I thought that launch was a giant failure because apparently we didn't make six figures the very first time we rolled something out.
Crazy.
And you know what? We never did it again.
Mm.
What?
Hmm.
Never did it again.
Well, because once people start to know, right? Once you're talking about, once it's visible, then it starts to work, but you can't be secretive and then have people pay. It's like I tell people all the time, it's like deciding to have a party Friday night, sitting in your house and being super sad when nobody comes, but you didn't tell anybody. Like my daughter will do that. I love her, but every now and then she'll say, well, but that kid didn't say hi to me. And I'll say, did you say hi to them? And she'll say, yes. And I'll say, in a way they could hear you. And she'll go, no. You're like, well, how were they to know you were saying hello?
But it's super vulnerable, right? Because when you, especially at the beginning of your business, when you start talking, you're a teacher, you're a helper, you're a nurse, you're a what, you are known as a thing with an ER at the end, right? You're a lawyer, you're a doctor, you are a recognized
The
profession.
thing.
People understand what
Yep.
you do. When you start talking about something else, people, honest to God, they worry for your actual sanity.
It's
Why
true.
would you give up the thing that's going to fund your retirement? Why are you giving
Why would
up
you leave
the
a tenured
comfort?
position?
All of that, right? Why would you
Hmm.
leave a tenured position? Why would you start this side hustle? Why would you do this? And I want everyone like gather around the campfire, friends. It's them, it's not you. People
Truth.
are afraid for you. When I left politics, people were wringing their hands. One woman was wringing her tears in her eyes, and she's like, but what if it doesn't work? And I was like, well, I've already ripped the band-aid off, sawed my leg off, and I'm running away from this career. It's cool. I'm already on a road of not doing this.
Yes.
And I can always come back, right? Part of my success in my coaching business is my credential is up to date. I've not worked in a classroom since 2012. I could get a teaching job tomorrow.
Mm. And you just know.
I just know.
Well, and see, at some point I let mine has lapsed, but I also, because I went from teaching into corporate for a while into other things, what I know and part of why I let it go when I let it go was like I am not unemployable. Like if I decided tomorrow I was going to go get a job, I would go get a job. People want what I have.
Exactly. But I keep it because it gives me a lot of credibility with
Yeah,
other teachers.
for sure.
And let's be real, lots of my clients are teachers. And
Yeah.
they're the people on your campuses who are leaving every day at the same time. They're the people who are laughing with their classes because they're doing the PE with the kids.
Hmm.
They're the people who are uh, not working all weekend. They're the people who are prioritizing the absolute essential
Yep.
things they have to do at school equally with the absolute essential things that they need to do for themselves in their own lives so that they can show up as a fully resourced teacher. You either want to sit by them because you're like, oh my God, how do you do that? Or you want to kind of trip them in the parking lot because you're like, ew, I hate that for you. I'm not ready to receive your
Well, right.
positivity.
It's that like,
Everything sucks. How can you not think that everything sucks? And my clients will say, everything sucks. And
mhm.
I am a whole human being that deserves to be treated with dignity and respect and love and care. And if I got to do that for myself, I'm gonna.
Well, and everything you just said applies to the entrepreneur space, right? Like
Yes.
y'all pick it up, move it over because we get to do the same thing here. Like I have somebody earlier in the week said to me, well, but when the clients email, I have to respond. Girl, I love you and you can wait 12 hours. They're not going to die. Like nobody's going to die.
Sorry, I have a thing on my email that says if you email me over the weekend, I may get back to you by Tuesday, or I may not. No worries.
Right. Like,
And in my head, I think if it's super important, you'll email me back during a time where I might see it.
right. Well, and like, but that's a boundary. It's a boundary choice. It's a way you get to, as the boss of my business, I get to make those choices. That's why I'm here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We get to do the same, make the same balanced choices, and they actually are greater success here, just like they would be greater success in a classroom, just like they're greater success anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me, are there things that you feel like that you have learned in your business where you were like, oh, that. Where, like, pick out
Oh my
one.
goodness, there's so many.
There's so many. Pick out your favorite that you're like, oh, that thing when I learned that thing. Like mine is
Okay.
often being nice to myself.
Okay. So I have two and they are directly relevant.
Okay.
Um, in 2019, I I talk to other coaches all the time because I'm like, everybody looks like they are killing it on the internet. Everyone. It turns out we're all about doing the same. So just get behind the curtain with people, have real conversations.
Yes.
Talking to one of my coaching besties, we were setting goals for the next year. I was super excited. I said, I'm going to double my income next year. And she said, I am so excited for you. What are you going to do differently to get a different result?
Mm.
Oh, Sarah. Oh, my immediate response was two middle fingers in her face. I was like, stop it. Stop it. Stop it with your logic. Stop it. And she's like, okay, are you ready to be coached through this? And I was like, I'm mad at you. Ask another question. Go ahead. I was planning to do nothing but wish. Well, I
Yes.
guess I'll be doing something differently. And she said, what are ways that you could bring in different income streams? And I was like, ugh. I guess I could try to sell the 2 courses that I've created, the 2 group coaching programs that when I rolled them out the first time, people that I didn't know put a credit card down and bought. But because I did not become a 6-figure overnight coach, I thought they failed. And she was like, yeah. Remember when you went through my coaching program the first time I ran it? And I said, yeah. And she's like, yeah, I just keep running the same thing over and over.
Right.
And then I keep getting feedback and I keep making it better. And then she's like, remember, I used to charge like $250 for it. And now it's $2,000. I was like, and then this is the second thing. I want everyone to listen to these words. I said, yeah, but I don't think people want to work with me in a group. They keep hiring me to do one-on-one work. And she said, well, honey, then just tell them how you work with people. You say, if you want to do this kind of work with me, this is the container that I do it in. You want to work on this? This is how I do that. You want to do that? This is how I do that. I was like, what? She's like, oh, you're the boss.
Right.
You decide how you work with people. I was like, but she's like, no, if you say it enough. She's like, it's kind of like when you show up at your classroom as the tallest person with the key, literally everyone in that building is like, well, I guess you're making the rules. I guess you're in charge because they gave you a key.
Well, and it's right there with like in parenting, I know this, in classrooms, I knew this. I'm never going to offer my kids a choice that I don't want them to take. So I'm going to never offer somebody a container for work together that I'm not going to enjoy.
Exactly.
Like, you don't have to offer that container. If you don't like purple containers, throw it out. If you're like, I hate working with people in groups, don't do it. If you think Instagram is the pits like I do, don't go there. Like, you don't have to do any of that stuff. And when you love it, you can do it 3 times and no one's going to die, or 63 times, even better.
But the point is, it's twofold.
Yes.
If you want to make more income, you have to raise your prices. You have to create a one-to-many model because we only have so many hours in our day.
Yep.
You have to be creative, but you cannot do the exact same thing that you did in the last year and expect to double your income without a plan about how you're going to do that. Secondly, you decide how you work with your people.
Yes. Yes. Well, and the other thing that I think is hidden in there is that when she said, what do you want to do different? You knew. Because here's the thing, 99 times out of 100, when I say to somebody, okay, what are the options? They know them all. They just haven't said them out loud yet. They haven't admitted they exist. They haven't been like, oh, I guess I could do. And halfway through the conversation, they'll be like, wait, I think I just answered my own problem. Like, right, man, you just didn't say it out loud yet. You didn't like look at the board and be like, what's on the game board? What can I use?
Yeah,
You
what
didn't like,
choices do I have? And,
yes.
but I will also say, just because I know somebody's like, oh, that's totally easy. No, it wasn't easy.
Mm-mm.
Because in my mind, I was a failure because these programs didn't take off like gangbusters the first time out. So did I have to get some coaching about that? Every single creator puts something out in the world. They get feedback.
Yes.
They come back and they make another version and then they sell the same thing over, but it's a little better.
Yes.
Oh my God. That iterative process, I believe they call it learning. What? You think I would know this as a teacher? Y'all, apparently I thought it didn't apply to me. I thought, again, this is where my fixed mindset, either I was a success or a failure.
Yes.
Why did I not celebrate the fact that I sold a handful of class? I had an international cohort of the very first program I put out.
Well, and the magic, even the celebration of like you pulled something out of your brain and people were like, I'll pay for that.
Exactly.
It's fascinating. And I think the other part of it that's interesting is, the way I often think about it is I don't, it's funny, it is learning. I don't think about it as learning, but somewhere along the way, somebody said to me, if you wanted to, it was when I was starting to sell group coaching. And she said, if it takes you a year to learn how to do it, would you be cool with that? And I was like, yeah, actually, I would. And she said, okay, so for the next year, just think about it as practice. Can you practice learning to sell this for however long it takes? And I was like, oh. So like every year now, I start the year with this year, I'm going to practice learning to sell X, right? And then it's like I'm going to mess with it until it works better. So good. So tell me, we're going to change slightly. What are the teaching skills that you bring into business that you think makes it less complicated for you than average?
This is hard because there's so many. I'm like, all of them. One of the things that I do,
Truth.
one of the things I do is because I understand that when you feed students information with a fire hose in each of your hands at their face at close range, those students do not feel successful. They feel uncomfortable, but not in the good way I can learn something. They feel overwhelmed and
Mm.
perhaps they want to quit. So I like to take my decades of knowledge and break things down so simply that every single time I have an interaction with someone, they feel like I can totally do that.
Yes.
I'm like, you not only can you do it, you just did it. Gold stars. Do you want some more information about all the other things that
Yep.
you can do? Because I look at teaching less like a pitcher pouring information into people. We have enough information, everyone. But
Yes.
really, I'm a facilitator of, okay, how do we help you take what you know and put it into action?
Well, it's like what it makes me think of in my head is, when babies were little and you were feeding them and you gave them little bits. Like we're managing bite size. Like right now, my kids are 12 and 10. I'm gonna hand them the whole sandwich. But as littles, I was giving them little bits at a time. I'm gonna manage their bite size, whether it's in information or food. And I think what you're talking about to a degree is bite size, right? It's like,
Well, it's
how do
also
I give you this
it's meeting
information?
people where they are
Yes.
and not being like, I can't believe you don't know this already, or I can't believe that, because I don't think any of us are teaching anything that somebody could not go to YouTube University or a book. Or I'm like, I literally wrote a book. If you are a self-starting student, you can spend $22 and buy my book. It's called The
Yeah.
Essential Guide to 100% Guilt-Free Self-Care. I leave it all out there. It's all public. If you would like to learn how to rebalance the domestic labor at home, go to your bookstore, go to the library, and get Eve Rodsky's book, Fair Play.
Yes.
There's not a lack of information. I facilitate learning. I
Yes.
facilitate student success so that they build the confidence to go, oh my God, I used to not be able to do that. And now I do. And what else am I capable of?
Yes.
And I'm
Well,
like,
that's
everything,
everybody, right?
let's do this.
Yes. Yes, I love that. It is both bite size and like I don't love the word accountability, but it is, and also uh the reminders of success, right? It's the like, good you, now we're gonna do what's next, right? It's that constant progress, but it is the awareness of progress that I think makes such a difference right in there. And that's all Yes.
right?
Okay.
But it's also, so when I say accountability, I always put the word lovingly accountable,
Mm-hmm.
because you're already beating yourself up, because you already have a lifetime of, see, I told you I suck, I can't, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? I hear you. And clearly your inner critic is going after you. And if you showed up, you're winning. If
Yes.
you did 1%, you're winning. If you did not quit and say, I cannot change, you're winning. Because
Yep.
the work I do with people is for a lifetime. I'm like, hey, you know what we could always do? We could start again. Is it
Yes.
harder? Yes. Physics, right? Body at rest stays at rest. Body in motion stays in motion. That is true in habit formation and all of it. And if you can reactivate that energy and start again, kudos.
Yeah. Well, and
Thank
that's right. Like that's everything. And sometimes we need to start again. Sometimes it wasn't meant to be right then. Sometimes it wasn't. And it's funny. I had a call with somebody this morning as a potential client, and she said, "Do you give homework?" And I said, "Yeah." And then she kind of like, and I was like, "Wait, but wait. Like it's never homework that isn't relevant in a part of what you're doing already. It's never graded. If you come and you're like, I didn't get to it, nobody's dying. Like I'm never mad. It's always like, okay, so how do we help you do this now? How do we make it fit for you? It's never like gonna none yelled at you homework. It's like, hey, I think this would help this week. This is how we can do it different. And she went like, oh, like you, I watched her shoulders change. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. It was such an
because
interesting,
we live in a punitive culture.
yes, she was ready for me to be like be mad. And I was like, no, 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 hold on, hold on, hold on. Never gonna be what comes out of this. Not ever.
Well, what's funny, so when my clients, I ask them, what homework do you want to give yourself?
Yes.
And sometimes they tell me stuff, and sometimes they're like, girl, I am up to my eyeballs, and I know, maybe I'll do something that I already assigned myself that I never got around to, or maybe I'm just holding the boundary of no thanks. And I'm like, girl, I have checked so much homework, and all it got me was a tummy ache.
Yes.
So I'm not in the business of holding
Great.
you accountable or your success or failure. I'm here to facilitate learning, however that needs to look for you at this time.
Well, and honestly, I bet you do this. I do some of this too. Sometimes people at the end of calls will say to me, okay, here's the things I'm going to work on this week. And I'll be like, okay, no, two of those. I regularly with people take stuff off where I'm like, no, 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 no. Too many things. Too many things. Like we don't need to be with this is not about triple A pluses, girl. This is about like, let's be real and maybe you could sleep tonight.
You know what, okay, so I think one of the phrases that has helped me the most in my entrepreneurial journey is begin the way you wish to continue. And
Oh,
the way I wish to continue is I want to work part-time. That's how I started. I started because I was raising a baby and a business at the same time. But you know what? When I was 10 years old, all I wanted to do was work part-time. It has been a lifelong ambition to work part-time. Begin the way you wish to continue. Now, do I want to have full-time money for my part-time work? Yes. I want to have hella full-time money. I want to be paid thousands for my very part-time work. So that is how I run my business
yes.
from the beginning. Now, do I have to talk myself off the ledge that I'm not, quote, farther along in my business? You bet your ass I do.
Well, but I don't
And
think anybody doesn't have that ledge no matter how far they are.
or how many hours a day they work.
Correct,
And
right?
I would also argue I get more done in a shorter amount of time because, as the very smart Betty Friedan said in 1950 in The Feminine Mystique, the job expands to fill the time you give it. If you say, I'm having a dinner party in 30 minutes, you're going to clean your house in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
If you say you're having a dinner party in 36 hours, now you've got 36 hours to
Yes.
freak out about cleaning your house. You're having a dinner party in 6 months. Well, guess what? Now you're going to have a tummy ache for 6 months. Friends, shorten the time you're giving yourself to do the job.
Yes, that's
It's
what.
not getting better. It's like fish on a hot day outside. It doesn't get fresher the longer it sits.
Well, and I
Ages,
like,
ages like milk, right? Like, let's stop the madness.
no, it's like madness. And I constantly, it's funny, I just did a journaling challenge and I'm doing an offer challenge in 2 weeks in my group. And one of the things I'm constantly on is like, you have 3 minutes to do this. You're going to
Okay.
decide, you're going to write, you're going to walk away. You're going to walk away. Like, you don't need 30 minutes, you need three. We need to make the window very small so that you don't have time, because it's thing, do, go. It's not thing, think, perseverate, question, worry, change again,
Because
think
really, what are we
more.
doing? We're perfecting,
Blah.
but you cannot get
Can't.
everybody get out of your brain that you can perfect it privately. That doesn't exist.
Nope.
Because the moment you let your perfect thing out in the world, somebody is going to have an improvement. I hope they are gracious with their language about your typo in your book. Not guaranteed. I hope they're gracious in their language about how you're too expensive. No guarantee. I hope they're gracious about whatever criticism they offer. Unlikely. The only way that we get better is when we get feedback from others, the people who are buying our thing,
Which you
not
have
our
to say out
parents,
loud in order for them to give you feedback. I mean, that is the truth, right?
right? Like, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So
Okay.
I think that's like, I think that's it. Like, if that's what you, friends, listen to me. If that's what you walk away with, please walk away with that. There's 700 other things in here to walk away with. Please take them all, or pick one to hold in your pocket for a while, or wear, or do whatever you want with. Miss Tami, what should people come get from you right now?
Oh, I love this question. So you can come over to my website, tamihackbarth.com, and you can go into my shop and you can download the free Reduce the Mental Load Challenge. It's a 3 workshop series. It gives you um, a glimpse into the actual work that I do with clients, because I took a couple of weekly parts of different modules and I put them together in this workshop series. And I'm like, so if you want to know what it's like to work with me and the work that I do, come learn about reducing the mental load. And you're like, I don't even know what that is. So if I may, the mental load is the things that you're in the middle of the night persevering about. Do we have toilet paper? Did I turn in the permission slip?
Mm.
Did I, whatever it is that has you up in the middle of the night while everyone else in your house is peacefully sleeping, because they never think about the toilet paper. They never think about how things happen in your house,
Yes.
because you're the one handling all of that on your
Yep.
own. It's about making the invisible work of your home life visible so that the rest of your family is like,
Oh,
oh, God, no wonder
yeah.
why you're so grumpy all the time.
Oh my God. Well, and I bet the people that hear this know what they're like, oh, that mental ticker tape. There,
Exactly.
yes, yes.
Exactly. And
So,
we can also bring those principles with us into our businesses, but also into our classrooms and our jobs. It's like, how do we make the invisible labor of life, which, by the way, our country is 100% built on the invisible labor of women? How do we make it visible so that we can have other people take ownership of some aspects of running a household?
yes. And and in your business, like, it applies everywhere. It goes, like, who doesn't have those
Absolutely.
things and then have to figure out how to make them shareable? How often do we talk about this? All of it. So
Right?
everything, friends, first of all, as I told you at the start, now is the time to go very lovingly become a Tami stalker. Um,
Yes. And you can likely find my book, The Essential Guide to 100% Guilt Free Self Care, at your public library,
yep.
on the Libby app or the Hoopla app. You can also find it on my website. If you want to buy it at Amazon, you could. You could also get it at an independent bookstore. Just ask them, say, hey, do you have this book? If they don't, you're like, can you order it for me? And
Yes.
here's the thing, I purposefully made it short because it's essential.
Well, it's not
I
like
was
the 400
very,
things you should be doing list.
no,
Girl, yeah,
no.
yes.
Yeah.
Right? Like friends, please, 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 please go follow her around. Couple things. Please go download Tami's free thing. Go buy the book, go do the things. Please follow her around. She's got a podcast. We can find that too. It's all in the same brand. If you're not in the Facebook group for me, my Uncomplicating Business for Teachers, Helpers, and Givers, and you are needing to come play the offer game with us starting the week of June 3rd, please come play. Although I think this will probably be past then. I don't know when I scheduled this for. We'll deal with that in a minute. But friends, all the offer things will still be there all June. Miss Tami, thank you. What an
Thank you.
absolute treat. And I'm so glad that we got to do this, and I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.